Because I love you so much and I got so many requests for gluten-free recipes. From YouTube, we have Lin Pal 1, Mare Blue, Xterras, Tea with Missy, Sneaky Merch. What does that mean, Sneaky Merch? From Facebook, we have Kim DeVore Killen, Anya Rocks, Kimberly Baxter Packwood, and Jeannie McKinney. I am making a gluten-free quiche today. What do you think about that? Let's start, shall we? We shall. The first thing that you want to do is make your crust. That's the part with the gluten in it originally. So we're using 1 cup of a gluten-free all-purpose flour. This is King Arthur, which is one of our favorites because it's great for sweet and savory things. Half a teaspoon of salt, and then just pulse it to combine. And then add 1 stick of butter cut into pieces. Make sure it's really cold. And pulse that until the texture of coarse meal, with the largest pieces of butter being the size of small peas. And then add 2 tablespoons of ice water and 1 whole egg. The egg is gonna hold the mixture together because gluten-free crust can be a little bit more delicate, so you add the egg to help hold it together. Just pulse it until it holds together when pressed between your fingers. I have a piece of plastic wrap here. Just dump your dough onto the plastic wrap, wrap it up in plastic wrap, and then pat it into a disc. It makes it easier to roll out if your dough is already in a disc. So pat it into a disc, wrap it in your plastic wrap, and refrigerate it for about an hour. And you have gluten-free pie dough in 5 minutes. Just make sure to leave those little pieces of butter in there so it gets nice and tender and flaky. Now you can start your rolling. I have my chilled dough here. Roll out your dough using a nicely floured surface. You don't want to have your dough stick, and it is a bit soft. So be generous with your flour. Just continue rolling it until it's big enough to fit into your 9-inch pie plate, moving it frequently so that it doesn't stick. This is a very tender and delicate dough, so use as few movements as possible when you're working with it. You will be paid off in the end with a delicate and tender crust. Roll it up onto your rolling pin. You're gonna have a hard time lifting it, so make sure you roll it onto your rolling pin and fit it into your pie plate. I'm gonna give you one word of warning. Once it's in the pie plate, it's very difficult to move, so make sure that you place it exactly where you want it, and then go around the edges, folding them under and crimping as desired. If some pieces fall apart or it tears just a little bit, just press it back together again. It's a very forgiving dough in that way. Line with a piece of parchment paper. Fill with dried beans or pie weights or rice, and then it's ready to bake. But you're gonna bake part of your quiche filling at the same time. Have 1 onion that's been sliced, it's on a baking sheet, a teaspoon of fresh thyme, a little bit of olive oil, some salt, and these are gonna bake at the same time while you're blind baking your crust, saving time. 400 degrees, bake until the onions are softened and the crust is light golden brown and dry, about 15 to 18 minutes. Alrighty. Now we're talking. So carefully remove your parchment and beans. Now you can make your filling. I'm gonna use a mixture of whole eggs and egg whites for a slightly lighter custard. So 5 whole eggs and then 2 egg whites. Just allow the egg white to drop into the bowl with the whole eggs, and then you can put your egg yolk back in the other bowl. Okay, whisk those, breaking them up a little bit. 1/3 cup of milk, whisk that in, and then add 1/2 teaspoon of coarse salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and 4 ounces of cubed ham. You want to get the kind that's nice and thick, but if you can't, you can just cut strips with deli ham. That's totally fine. 1/2 cup of grated Swiss cheese, and then those onions that you baked along with your crust, add those, stir everything together. Pour it into your pre-baked crust. It's very important to pre-bake your crust when you're making a quiche. Otherwise, the bottom of the crust will never bake. And you'll say, ick, I'm never gonna make quiche again. Blind bake your crust and you'll never say that again. Bake this at 400 degrees until it's just set in the center, about 25 minutes. Do you guys want to try this? I totally do. It's been sitting here cooling for a while. You could refrigerate it if you wanted to, or just serve it room temperature, but it looks fantastic. It's nice and golden brown. I'm gonna cut into it and have a taste. See how tender and flaky the crust is? It just flakes apart, but it also holds together all at the same time. It's pretty cool once you get it in there. nicely baked. It's pretty amazing. Bake up one of these quiche, give it a taste, and let me know if you think it's the best gluten-free quiche you've ever had. I think it's quite delicious.